WWE is in the middle of its second season of Most Wanted Treasures on A&E. I have not been keeping up with all of the new A&E program. I've been keeping up with enough of the AEW programming. Now we have more coming up. But all of the A&E programming, there we go. But I did see the DX episode where Mick Foley went to Road Dogg's house. He was looking for any DX memorabilia that he might have. He had none because he had a very bad drug problem back in the day, and either he didn't keep a lot of that stuff or he sold it for drugs. But he did have a replica of the old WWF Tag Team belt in a display case, which he gifted to them. He did admit, though, he couldn't say for sure that it was, in fact, I think he flat out said it probably wasn't one of the actual tag belts he held with Billy Gunn when they had their New Age Outlaws run, and that he may have technically stolen it. It may have technically been a stolen item from the WWF warehouse or backstage area. So basically, he gave this stolen item back to Mick Foley for him to bring back to the warehouse. But they also were looking for one of Chyna's old ring outfits. Lita and Sean Waltman made the trip to Joni's sister's house, and she didn't have anything as far as outfits or gear, but she did give them some old family photos of Joni. And then they went searching for the DX Invasion Jeep. And they found it in someone's garage. The son of the person who drove the Jeep the first time, back in '98 when they tried to invade Nitro. He would not give, the son that is, would not give the Jeep to them, not for the price they were offering, but he agreed to loan it to them. And he said that he would be, the one to drive it to Raw 30. If you remember Raw 30, the beginning of the year, they drove that Jeep into the building when they had a little DX reunion. He was the one driving the Jeep, and that was the original Jeep that they used in that segment back in '98. So that was the DX episode. But when I saw they were doing a Macho Man Randy Savage episode, that got my attention. Top Dollar, by the way, is no longer part of this show. Booker T is now their new head of acquisitions. That is what they are calling him. So it's his job to try to procure some of these collectibles. And he has enlisted the help of Mick Foley and others to go on the road and help find this rare stuff. And now it's their job to lowball people on their offers. Remember season 1? Triple H sent Top Dollar around to basically offer $2,500 to everybody. Yeah, not much has changed here. One of the items they were looking for in this episode was the giant Macho Man monster truck that made exactly one appearance on WCW television. It was at Halloween Havoc in 1996. When I think of monster trucks in pro wrestling, I think about Hulk Hogan and the Giant and their monster trucks. Their monster truck battle on the roof of Cobo Hall and Giant falling off the side of the building. I have no memory of there even being a Macho Man monster truck. But there it was. It was a Ford monster truck owned by Bigfoot 4x4. Had a gigantic yellow fiberglass cowboy hat on the top of it that said Macho, either Macho or Macho Man on it. They found the hat. They did not find the actual monster truck, but they found the hat. It has been sitting in someone's garage. This guy is actually a referee, I guess, for some local indie promotions in the area. And he's had it in his garage. It could not have been for that long, though, because as of a few years ago, it was sitting outside of a thrift store in Illinois, just sitting outside. And obviously the elements have taken a toll on this thing. The Macho Man lettering is mostly worn off, but you can still see the outline of it on the hat. Lita offered the guy, what else? $2,500 for this giant cowboy hat. He asked for $5,300. Which is exactly penny for penny, he said, what he paid for it, which is only fair. And they agreed to that deal. We had Mick Foley and Diamond Dallas Page taking a ride, heading to another collector's house to look for the Macho King, crown and scepter. This guy has an entire shrine in his home to the Macho Man, including the orange boots that he wore during the famous snakebite angle with Jake Roberts, which is very cool. He had one of the old Macho Man robes, the one that he wore to the ring for the match he had with Hacksaw Jim Duggan, in fact, when he became king back in '89. He had what he claimed he got from another collector that he trusted was the original Macho King crown. It was in a display case, the real deal. And he said he wouldn't put a value on it to sell when they asked him about selling it. but he did agree to loan it to them to put on display with the rest of the Macho King outfit, which he also had. The one thing he did not have was the scepter. He said that's with another collector who doesn't want to give it up, and I can't say I blame them, honestly. Foley took the crown back to Stamford to show it to Ben Brown. Ben Brown is their archivist, and he got some bad news. They compared it to an image of the old crown, and it didn't match up. He said it's possible, maybe, that Savage used it on some house show loops, but he doubts it. So they sent the crown back because they didn't want to put a crown on display at like Fan Access and stuff. That was not legitimate. Then they were looking for Savage's old Mega Powers robe, which he only wore twice. The SummerSlam 88 match against DiBiase and Andre, and then the NBC match in 89 against the Twin Towers that led to the breakup of the Mega Powers. As iconic as that run was, it is hard to believe that they only had 2 matches together. At least televised. I don't know how many house show matches the Mega Powers may or may not have had. But they only had two televised matches together. But see, now you're talking my jam now. Right? I was all about the Mega Powers as a kid, and the Mega Powers handshake. So they found a collector. His father bought the robe years ago in a silent auction. And it's even signed on the inside by the Macho Man. Foley offered him $5,000 for it, and he said no way. So then Foley went up to $8,500. Again, the guy said no way. He came back with $10,000, plus ringside seats for him and his family to WrestleMania, which would add another $10,000 on top of the $10,000 that he asked for. And Foley accepted the offer. And then the big one was the box of ICW Master Tapes, International Championship Wrestling, run by the Poffo family out of Kentucky, where Macho Man was born. The Macho Man character was born in ICW. 20 boxes of master tapes with episodes that never aired before on television. Basically, these tapes were lost to time. This footage was lost to time. Nobody knew it still existed. Nobody's seen it. As the story goes, and they told it on the episode, there was an oil company called Caspin Oil in Colorado. They loaned money to Angelo Poffo, Randy's father, to start the promotion. And as collateral, he would return the master tapes to them if he was ever unable to pay them back. He obviously couldn't pay them because one day they get a knock at the door and a box of these tapes gets dumped on their doorstep. And so the oil company, they put the tapes away in a storage locker. And they left them there for the last 35 years. They've been sitting there. They never explained how they came to find this out. They never explained who contacted them or how they got them from the oil company. But Ben Brown says, look, we're going to get Lanny to come in and authenticate the tapes. Now, obviously, this was recorded not long before Lanny passed away in February. So they got him to come to the warehouse, and they showed Lanny some of the footage, and he said, oh, God, I've never seen this before. We only got to see snippets, but it was very cool, and it looked to be in good condition, too. This was the first confirmation that WWE now owns the ICW tapes. So that's why at the beginning of the show, when I said they kind of broke news on this episode, I don't think anybody was aware of that. They may have assumed that WWE, maybe they had it or they were going after it, but this is the first confirmation that we have that they are in possession of the only known master tapes from ICW. It's why a lot of people were nervous, myself included, when this talk was going on for months about a potential WWE sale and who might end up buying the company, because WWE, they own so many different libraries. They basically own all of wrestling history. You know, Jim Crockett Promotions, Mid-South, World Class, WCW, ECW, AWA, and now ICW, among others. They have the OVW library too, although I don't think they ever put an OVW library up on Peacock. But they own all of this stuff. And maybe a new owner wouldn't prioritize that. Maybe they would stash it away never to be seen. You just don't know. I don't think that's going to happen under Endeavor. I think they'll just let WWE run things the way pretty much that they do now. But it would be nice to see them start rolling out some of these ICW episodes on Peacock soon. I would love to see more of that early Macho Man footage. So I enjoyed this. They dedicated the episode at the very end. They had a graphic for Lanny Poffo. I enjoyed this, and I know I'm going to enjoy tonight's episode, because tonight's episode is focused on Bret the Hitman Hart. He had his WrestleMania 8 jacket stolen from him, and he is looking to get it back. And we'll see what other artifacts they can find. If I have any of it stashed away myself, I got some Bret Hart items here, but I'm certainly not telling them about it. I'll tell them what they can do with their $2,500.